The silence in Kuroshima was more than just an absence of sound, it was an oppressive presence, as if the walls and streets had swallowed every breath of life. For decades, residents reported disappearances that never made it into newspapers, and the few curious individuals who dared to investigate were found dead, mutilated in ways that defied rational explanation. It was said that the forest bordering the town hid an ancient secret, a curse that dragged souls beyond sanity. Akira Hayashi, a 38-year-old art restorer, was far from believing in superstitions. He had been hired to restore an old scroll found in the last disappeared resident's house. Akira had always prided himself on his reason and meticulousness, but as he entered the nearly ruined house, he felt a penetrating chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. The air there seemed heavy, as if he were walking under a dense, unseen shadow that could only be felt. The scroll, covered in symbols resembling an unknown script, exuded a smell of mold and decay that made his stomach churn. Akira noticed that, as he handled it, faint, almost imperceptible whispers began to intensify, seemingly coming from the walls, the rotten floorboards, the scroll itself. With each page he turned, a growing sense of despair invaded him, an inner voice pleading with him to abandon that place. That night, after taking the scroll to his small apartment on the outskirts, Akira had disturbing dreams. He saw a hooded figure with skeletal hands, dragging itself through the shadows of the forest, whispering names in a language his brain couldn't decipher but that sounded like a call to death. He woke up covered in cold sweat, eyes wide open, with the impression that something invisible was watching him. The following days were a descent into the abyss. Every time Akira tried to focus on the scroll, he felt his hands tremble from an invisible force trying to prevent him from reading. His health began to decline. Black spots appeared on his skin, throbbing pains pierced his head, and sometimes his vision was consumed by flashes of horrifying scenes, a field of broken bones, empty eyes staring from within the earth, and a voice that insisted on repeating a phrase in an ancient, forgotten language. Despite this, Akira couldn't abandon his study. He felt that the answer to the disappearances, to the fear that froze the town of Kuroshima, lay within that scroll. That same week, reports of missing children increased. Parents boarded up their homes with nailed planks and whispered prayers, while at night, echoes of cries and macabre laughter cut through the dense forest air. Then, one night, Akira was found unconscious in the street, near the forest, with deep claw marks on his body and the scroll destroyed, scattered in pieces around him. He never fully regained consciousness, muttering in multiple fragmented voices, as if he were no longer a single person but several entities fighting for control. The most terrifying thing was that after his collapse, the silence in the town deepened. No more disappearances, no sounds in the forest, just an absolute void that seemed like a wait of bated breath before the end. Meanwhile, the fragments of the scroll that no one had collected remained there, scattered in the muddy road, absorbing rain and time, but never completely disintegrating. And some residents still claim that when night falls, a piercing whisper can be heard among the trees, naming those who will never return. The village of Vilcabamba, nestled in the dark mountains of Peru, was known for its wild beauty and ancient legends of spirits walking among the living. For Miguel Andrade, a 42-year-old botanist, the region seemed like the perfect paradise for his research on rare medicinal plants. However, he would soon discover that some roots carry more than life, they carry death. Miguel had isolated himself in a cabin near a clearing where red, fragrant flowers grew, which locals said were cursed. They avoided talking much about it, but whenever a new plant sprouted in that soil, someone in the village died under inexplicable circumstances, faces frozen in expressions of terror, bodies found with eyes gouged out, and nail marks as if they had fought against something invisible. Skeptical, Miguel wrote everything in his notebook, trying to justify those deaths as natural causes or accidents. But when the first attack happened to him, doubts began to gnaw at his rationality. During an expedition in the forest, he felt an intense itch on his arm and noticed he was being followed by shadows that seemed to dance among the trees. He tried to ignore it, but the discomfort grew, along with a feeling that something was growing inside him, like a deadly seed about to germinate. That same night, the cabin was invaded by a sweet, nauseating odor, a perfume that seemed to emanate from the red flowers in the clearing. Miguel tried to flee, but felt trapped in a deep stupor, as if invisible roots held him firmly. He woke up days later in an improvised infirmary, eyes red with fever, his notes completely destroyed, and his skin marked by black wounds that bled slowly. What no one knew was that night, the forest spirit had chosen Miguel as a vessel for its revenge. An ancient guardian who, enraged by the destruction of its territory, cursed invaders with a fate worse than death. Transformation into a hybrid being, half human, half poisonous plant, condemned to spread the curse. Miguel began to notice horrifying changes. His skin began to harden, acquiring a tree bark-like texture. His fingers elongated into tendrils that bled a black sap. His mind was divided between his humanity and the guardian's voice, which whispered orders to attack anyone who approached. Desperate, he tried to flee to the nearest city, but his body no longer responded as before, and the forest seemed to close behind him, trapping him in a labyrinth with no exit. In the village, deaths continued now with even more macabre reports. Bodies found hanging from trees, as if part of a dark garden, and those who tried to investigate disappeared mysteriously, as if swallowed by the earth itself. Miguel, in his moments of lucidity, wrote a last message in his notebook, pleading for no one to approach the Red Forest. "It's not just a forest," he wrote, "it's a living prison, and I am its sentence." The next morning, his body was found in the clearing, completely petrified, covered by the red flowers that seemed to grow from his wounds. His empty eyes reflected a suffering that no words could describe. On the icy coast of Scotland, amidst cliffs and persistent fogs, lies a village forgotten by time called Dunrath. For centuries, residents lived in the shadow of an ancient mansion that everyone simply called the Fog House. They said that no soul who entered there came out whole, and not just in the physical sense. Lena Fraser, a 29-year-old historian, driven by curiosity and skepticism, decided to spend a season in Dunrath to document the stories and try to demystify the legend. The mansion, a ruined Victorian house, had been closed for decades, but there had been recent reports of lights appearing in the windows during the darkest nights, accompanied by indistinct sounds that seemed like cries and whispers. On her first night inside the house, Lena felt a heavy presence, as if the air was impregnated with suffering. The walls creaked, and as she explored the corridors, she found drawings made with charcoal on the walls, strange symbols that seemed to beg for help or curse the living. Every step inside that house was a descent into an endless nightmare. In the library, old books told the story of a doctor, Duncan McGregor, who lived there in the 19th century and was known for his forbidden experiments. He tried, they say, to imprison the essence of life after death, manipulating the bodies and souls of the deceased to gain power and knowledge. That night, Lena heard a whisper coming from the basement. She descended with her trembling flashlight, and what she saw froze her. An experiment room with jars full of dark liquids and bodies shrunken into grotesque poses, as if waiting for something terrible. What happened next was hard to explain. Lena felt her body taken over by an invisible force, as if a cold hand was pulling her soul into that dark cauldron. She tried to resist, she screamed, but her body wouldn't respond. The last thing she saw was the face of the macabre doctor, like a specter, whispering that she had become part of his work. When the police arrived days later, they found the house empty, except for a single book open on the floor. The pages were marked with blood and contained Lena's last note. "Do not trust the House of Fog. It not only keeps secrets, it consumes them." The village of Dunrath was never the same. People living near the mansion began to disappear, and those who returned were changed, with empty eyes and smiles that didn't reach their souls. Some swear that on moonless nights, the house glows with a spectral light, calling more victims into its clutches. Deep in the Białowieża forest, Poland, a group of biologists was sent to study a rare species of owl that, according to locals, had a mysterious connection to inexplicable disappearances in the region. Among them was Marek, a 32-year-old with a passion for demystifying urban legends and folklore. On the first night, the group set up camp near a clearing where the owls were most active. The silence of the forest was interrupted only by the sharp cries of the nocturnal birds. However, something seemed wrong. Shadows moved erratically, and strange sounds mixed with the rustling of leaves. On the second day, Marek found a hidden cave covered in roots and moss, with ancient symbols carved into the entrance. Upon entering, he smelled a strong odor of iron and something else, dampness and decay. Inside, broken bones were scattered on the floor, some human, others animal, all intertwined with black feathers. It was then that events began to spiral out of control. At night, muffled voices echoed around the camp, and the feeling of being watched was constant. Marek woke up feeling something staring at him in the dark, and upon turning on his flashlight, he saw a hooded figure standing at the edge of the clearing, disappearing as soon as he blinked. Weeks before the group arrived, reports indicated that children from the nearby village had mysteriously vanished, and authorities found no trace. Locals spoke of a creature that fed on the souls of innocents, protected by the giant owl, guardian of an ancient curse. The terror peaked when Marek was found unconscious near the cave, with deep marks on his neck, as if he had been attacked by sharp claws. He didn't remember what had happened, but in the following days, his eyes acquired a strange glow, a yellow that seemed supernatural. From then on, he began to act erratically, pushing away his colleagues and muttering words in an ancient language. One night, during a fierce storm, Marek disappeared completely, leaving only a note written in blood. "The cycle is complete. The price must be paid." When the biologists abandoned the camp, the owls continued to howl at night, and the legend of the forest guardian became more alive than ever, a grim warning to those who dare to invade sacred territories. In the remote village of Kursk, Russia, an old abandoned mansion held a story so macabre that few dared to mention it aloud. It was said that during the Cold War, the mansion had been used by a secret group of scientists who conducted experiments with the aim of manipulating the human, a dark mix of science and occultism. The last experiment, however, ended in tragedy, leaving the house filled with malevolent energy and a series of mysterious deaths. Anatoly, a 44-year-old historian, fascinated by mystery stories, decided to investigate the mansion to write an article. He entered the house on a cold November night, equipped with a flashlight and his recorder. The interior was filled with the smell of mold and iron, walls marked with strange symbols and stains that looked like dried blood. As he walked through the dark corridors, Anatoly felt a growing presence, as if the air itself had become heavy, suffocating. He passed a room where old documents were scattered, reports of patients who had gone insane after the experiments. One of them spoke of whispering voices that stole sanity and induced suicide. In the midst of his exploration, Anatoly was surprised by a shadow that quickly crossed the corridor. He tried to follow, but the house seemed to transform. The corridors shifted, and he soon realized he was trapped in an infernal labyrinth, created by some force beyond human comprehension. Desperate, he found a locked room. Forcing the door open, he came across an old diary, written by one of the scientists who confessed to having opened a portal to a dimension where entities hungry for pain and despair awaited to cross into our world. It was then that voices began to echo through the house, growing louder and more deafening. Anatoly felt invisible hands squeezing his neck, while the floor seemed to open beneath his feet. In his last breath, he recorded a desperate message. "They are here. Don't let them find their way to you." The next morning, the police found the mansion empty, except for the recorder, which still played the horrifying sounds of Anatoly's last nightlet. Since then, no one has dared to enter the house, and the villagers swear they hear screams and whispers at night, coming from within that cursed place. These stories show how cruel and unforgiving the supernatural can be. If you've made it this far, thank you for facing these narratives filled with fear and mystery with me. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel here. Every subscription is a light that pushes away the darkness. I want you to be part of this community where we not only share stories but also experience fear, curiosity, and respect for the unknown. Share your own experiences in the comments, your unbelievable stories, or that inexplicable chill you can't quite explain. It's incredible how fear unites and strengthens us, and your voice makes all the difference in helping this community grow into something truly unique. And of course, tell me, what did these stories teach you? How did they make you feel? Leave your account, your reflection, because there's no room for empty stories here, only for true explorers of terror. Until the next tale, if you dare,